Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This morning we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Text 19. Oh, Chapter 3, Text 19. Bhagavanapi Vishvatma Lokaveda Patanuga Kamanchise Vedvatvatyam Bhavatyam Ashakta Sankamastita Bhagavanapi Vishvatma Lokaveda Patanuga Kamanchise Vedvatvatyam Ashakta Sankamastita Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, Api also, Vishva Atma, the super soul of the universe, Loka, customary, Veda, Vedic principles, Pata Anuga, follower of the path, Kaman, the necessities of life, Shisheve, enjoyed, Bhavatyam, in the city of Dwarka, Ashakta, without being attached, Sankyam, knowledge in Sankhya philosophy, Astita, being situated. Translation. Simultaneously, the personality of Godhead enjoyed life in the city of Dwarka, strictly in conformity with the Vedic customs of society. He was situated in detachment and knowledge as enunciated by the Sankhya system of philosophy. Purport. While Maharaj Yudhisthira was the emperor of the earth, Lord Sri Krishna was the king of Dwarka and was known as Dwarkadisha. Like other subordinate kings, he was under the regime of Maharaj Yudhisthira. Although Lord Sri Krishna is the supreme emperor of the entire creation, while he was on this earth, he never violated the principles of the Vedic injunctions because they are the guide for human life. Regulated human life according to the Vedic principles, which are based on the system of knowledge called Sankhya philosophy, is the real way of enjoyment of the necessities of life. Without such knowledge, detachment, and custom, the so-called human civilization is no more than an animal society of eat, drink, be merry, and enjoy. The Lord was acting freely as he willed, yet by his practical example, he taught not to lead a life which goes against the principles of detachment and knowledge. Attainment of knowledge and detachment, as very elaborately discussed in Sankhya philosophy, is the real perfection of life. Knowledge means to know that the mission of the human form of life is to end all the miseries of material existence, and that in spite of having to fulfill the bodily necessities in a regulated way, one must be detached from such animal life. Fulfilling the demands of the body is animal life, and fulfilling the mission of the spirit soul is the human mission. Bhagavanapi Vishvatma Loka Veda Patanuga Kaman Shisheve Bhavatyam Ashakta Sankam Astita. Simultaneously, the personality of God had enjoyed life in the city of Dwarka, strictly in conformity with the Vedic customs of society. He was situated in detachment and knowledge as enunciated by the Sankhya system of philosophy. So Lord Krishna's life in Dwarka is spoken about here, and while assisting, now this is brought up because in the previous verse it was mentioned about Maharaj Yudhisthira, how with the aid of his brothers was overseeing the functions as the emperor, overseeing the functions of Bharatvarsha. And he was a follower of Lord Krishna. Here it is said, constantly following Krishna, and Krishna, of course, was his supporter. But simultaneously to Krishna being the supporter of Yudhisthira, he was living in Dwarka. And we know Krishna, of course, appeared in Mathura, and then he was transferred to Vrindavan, and then he went back to Mathura, and then created a beautiful city in Dwarka. And for 100 years, he was living, 100 earth years, he was living in the city of Dwarka. Now here is mentioned interestingly in the verse itself, Bhagavan api Vishvatma. Bhagavan api Vishvatma. I remember a devotee called Vishvatma. You remember? Where was he from? Melbourne? Sydney. Huh? Tolga. Yeah. In Sydney, right? He was there when you were there. When you kind of joined up at the same time. Well, roundabout. Vishvatma. I always liked that name, Vishvatma. Because it means the super soul of the universe. I used to like calling him over. Vishvatma. Nice devotee. And Vishvatma means Lord, a super soul, Lord of the universe, of course, but more specifically, in Bhagavan, he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he is specifically, as mentioned here, Vishvatma. Vishvatma means the super soul of the universe. Of course, he's the super soul of all universe, and many universes. Of this universe, the super soul means within everybody, we as the individuals, as the individual soul, are living in this body. So we're living in this body, but we're not living in that body or that body, other species of life. They are different individual souls living in those bodies. But the Paramatma or Vishvatma, he is the super soul, and the term is used, super soul. It's not just the soul, he is the super soul. Why is he super? Because he lives in all the bodies. He's living in all, you're here, and Krishna is also here, and Krishna is in all the bodies, all over the universe, not just a few. I remember reading many years ago when Prabhupada, in a conversation, Prabhupada said to someone, how does Krishna know everything? And different disciples gave different answers. Krishna knows everything because he is everywhere. He is in everything. If you were everywhere and in everything all the time, you would know everything also. But you are not everywhere in everything, even in the atoms. So you're not there, so you don't know everything. But Krishna knows everything in the universe. He knows everything in all the other universes because he's there as well. And he knows everything going on outside of the universes. So therefore, he is all-knowing. We can't be all-knowing because we're very limited. At least in that sense, we're only here. And even when we're here in the body, we don't even know what's going on with the body. I don't feel well, I feel sick, this, that, what's going on, I don't know. Something's wrong. And you have to kind of look into it and try to ascertain what's wrong. So even in your own body, you've got very limited understanding of what's going on even in your own body. So Krishna's there, so not only is he there, but he's the creator of all these things. He knows exactly what's going on in every moment. So this is Vishvatma. And I noted the use of this word here. Bhagavan, api Vishvatma, Bhagavan, and now he's Vishvatma, and he's also Bhagavan, and as super soul. It's not just a passive role, actually, as Paramatma in all the bodies. He's not only overseeing, he's enabling all the actions of the living entities in all species of life. But simultaneously, as Bhagavan, he possesses all unlimited qualities. Bhagavan. So he's Bhagavan api Vishvatma. And actually, interestingly, Lokaveda Patanuga. Patanuga means the follower the follower, Anuga, means the follower of the path. He is the follower, what path? Lokaveda. Lokaveda of the path of the Vedas. Now, and specifically Lokaveda, interestingly, this word Loka means the planet. So, Bhagavan, now I also mentioned Kamashisheva Varbat, but while he was living in Dwarka, he was the Lokaveda Patanuga. He was following the path of the Vedas, even though he was Bhagavan Api Vishvatma. He is a super soul. Now, it is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita in a few verses there, in the third chapter. Name patash dikatavyam trishu lokashu kinchana nana bhaktam bhata ivacha kamani. There's no work that is prescribed for me, Krishna says, nor do I want anything, nor do I need anything. Yet, while in the world, I follow prescribed activities as given in the Veda. As given in the Veda. I don't need anything. I don't want anything. There's not really, I am the originator of the Veda. Nami Pitashti. And then Krishna goes on to say, Utsideyo me lokana kuryam sankara shatakata sam upanya ima praja. He goes on to say, if I didn't act in that way, then the whole world will be put in ruination. And later on he says, Yad yad acharitri sheshtati vetanojan. He says that. He says that whatever great men do, common men will follow, and whatever stands he sets by his exemplary acts, all the world pursues. Very famous. These are all famous statements by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. Whatever action a great man does, common men will follow, and whatever stands he sets by his exemplary acts, all the world pursues. So Krishna, knowing his position, very famous. Krishna's famous at the time. He was famous before the time. He's famous even now. He's got unlimited reputation, not only here in this loka, and all the planetary systems, all the universes. So just imagine someone, just like on the mundane level, you have someone who's very famous. Everyone's looking to them. Well, what are they doing? How are they doing these things? And and they're very successful. And so you want to do the same thing. So you want to emulate very successful people, very great people, very powerful people. And so that's kind of natural. So then Krishna is in the supreme position, so he was very aware that whatever he did, if he didn't follow the Vedic, although he didn't need to follow, they originate from him. It's not that he needs anything. Normally we need the Vedas. Now people these days, of course, in the Kali Yuga, many people don't even know what the Vedas are. And even if you've heard of the Vedas, you don't know what's in the Vedas. It's a very vast work. And Prabhupada goes so far as to say here that if you really want to live in the world in a nice, peaceful way, follow the Vedic injunctions. Follow there's the spiritual aspect to it. In the Vedas, there's a spiritual aspect. The Upanishads and so many Sankhya, all these different higher aspects of spirituality are there in the Veda, but also in the Veda is how to live in the world. It's like an instruction manual on how to live in the world. And there'll be different prescriptions for different types of people. Just now, you can follow the Veda and live a relatively peaceful, because in the material world there's nothing completely peaceful, but a relatively peaceful and a nice life. They give, okay, you live in the world, you do these things, follow these instructions, and you will live nicely. I was explaining a little bit about that last week. And just like if you purchase something, let's say you purchase, for example here, you purchase a new sound system in the temple, new speakers, new amplifiers, new equalizers, this and that and the other. And then along with that comes the instruction manual. Now, you can follow the instruction manual, lays out very good, put this, connect this, put this wire in here, put these cables here, and then when you follow everything exactly, you turn it on, it works. Or you could completely ignore that, completely ignore the instruction manual and just get it all out of the boxes. The thing, I'll just put this lead here, this cable here, this thing here, turn it on. Oh, what did I do wrong? Could happen like that. unless you're already knowledgeable about these things. But generally, each system has specific requirements. So you can do it, your own way, and there'll be consequences. Maybe not. Maybe you'll get it right. Maybe you won't get it right. And the consequences, if you don't get it right, could be quite devastating. So now we're living in the world. No one knows what the Vedas are. No one follows the Vedas. Practically speaking, in the majority population of the world. So therefore, life is hard. Life is hard. There are certain laws to how everything works, just like everyone understands. There's laws of nature. And when you transgress, but above all the laws of nature, there's the laws of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and all these agents, all these things. The world is going on in a very regulated way. Each day the sun comes up at a certain time. I mean, you can look up and see what the sunrise in 3 months will be at such and such time for this area. So exact. And the moonrise will be at such and such, and sunset will be this. I mean, you can look it up, and sure enough, it'll be like that. So it's so very regulated. It's just this whole presentation of it. It was like a big bang or something, and it just randomly all came together, and all of a sudden it became ordered in such a way that the sun comes up exactly. It started off all chaotic, and then now it's all of a sudden become ordered. Have you ever known anything that's chaotic that become automatically ordered without it, just by itself? There's a bunch of chemicals, and they were all over scattered, and they kind of jumped together, and then became all ordered. Multi-complex mechanisms came into existence in a very organized way. I mean, when you put it, that's a very simplistic presentation, but when you put it like that, it's quite ludicrous. But so everything is very ordered. So it behooves the individual to know what's going on in it to a certain degree, so then you can cooperate with how things are going on. You can cooperate with that. So therefore it is mentioned here by Prabhupada, regulated human life according to the Vedic principles, which are based on the system of knowledge called Sankhya, is the real way of enjoyment of the necessities of life. So even for the necessities of life, it's best to follow the Vedic instructions. And the Vedic instructions for this age of Kali have been condensed down. And we have the Pantratriki, we have so many instructions, we have all the acharyas giving it for the modern context of things for our benefit. Vedas are quite vast, and for people to understand is very difficult in Kali Yuga. So very kindly, Krishna has arranged that great acharyas and gurus are presented in a condensed way so you can very easily apply it. So if we follow that, we live in the Sattva Gun, following these instructions, even our material life will be nice, relatively speaking. As I said, it can never be perfectly nice because it's the material world. It's temporary. We're eternal, so there's a conflict there. We're eternal. We want to live forever, but somehow or other, the body dies. So therefore, there's going to be a conflict. So life in the material can never be completely 100% perfect, but relatively peaceful. But now we're not seeing that in the Kali. We're not seeing that. We're seeing a lot of conflict, a lot of necessities of life are not being supplied. There's scarcity, there's drought, there's flood, all sorts of things mentioned many, many times. So, and this is the reason. This is the reason, as given here. So here Prabhupada goes on to say, of course, and in the last line of this verse today, Shakta Shankyam Astita, meaning that now the Vedic principles, the spiritual side of it, there's the material side of it, how to live in the world, follow your, the Varnashram, and, there's prescribed duties for the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas and Vaishyas, and then for the Brahmacharis and the Grihastas and the Vanaprasthas. So they're all prescribed duties. There's general duties and there's more specific duties. So you follow that on one side. But on the other side, parallel, there's Sanatan Dharma. So there's Svadharma, what's called Svadharma on the material side, where you are prescribed duties according to the Vedic injunction. And there's Sanatan Dharma, which is Sanatan means eternal duties. Svadharma means your temporary duties while in the world. And Sanatan Dharma means eternal duties of spiritualism. Now, both, while in the world, they're meant to go like railway tracks. There's always two tracks, and the train, the wheels of the train go on the 2 tracks. So while in the world, you do both. You do your prescribed duties, material activities, and you do your spiritual activities. But of the two, the spiritual is more important. In the end, when the body ceases to exist, then the material will fall away and the spiritual will continue. You will continue on spiritually. And maybe if you become very elevated, you'll just drop your material body and you'll just, awaken your spiritual identity and your spiritual form, spiritual life, and you'll just go Sanatandam. You won't have to worry about Spadam. Of course, those who are not completely perfected, they'll have to come back for another term and continue on Svadharma, Sanatandama, and go along the path until gradually they become perfect. No more Svadharma, just Sanatandama, spiritual life. Hare Hare Krishna. Hare Hare Bol. I always remember, I've told this story many times, but I always remember this lady asked me a question in a class in Adelaide when I gave a lecture, and she said, "What do you do for your meditation?" I said, "We chant Hare Krishna." "What else do you do?" I said, "We chant more Hare Krishna. We don't need to do anything else. We just chant Hare Krishna, and so there's levels of chanting. There's levels of chanting Hare Krishna. One can be a novice and chant and get benefit, or one can be very, very elevated personality, and when they chant and when others chant, they're also just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We used to have these kirtans and nocturnal kirtans in the house of Srivas Thakur, and there was very elevated devotees, and he only wanted the very elevated devotees in there because he wanted to relish a certain mood because of the consciousness of all those elevated devotees. They actually used to lock the doors. No one else can come in here. We just want these devotees in here. Now, that signifies that there are different levels of chanting. And Lord Chaitanya, of course, and Lord Nityananda, they would have kirtan in there. They would chant in ecstasy, crying. Lord Chaitanya would be crying. They would dance in ecstasy. There's description in Chaitanya Bhagavatam that Lord Chaitanya would jump up in the air. He would dance around and twirl around, and he would jump in the air, and he would stay there. He would stay in the air. And Lord Nityananda used to jump up in the air with him and just stay in the air and just dancing in the air. Everyone would look up, they're in the air. Didn't come down. And then they decided to come down. So what level of kirtan is that? Of course, we have our nice kirtan devotees dance around and spin around in their ecstasy. And they jump up and they jump in the air also, but I doubt anyone can actually jump up and stay up there. That defies the laws of gravity as we know in this world. Anyway, so all this comes about in the Veda. There's one section called Sankhya. Sankhya philosophy means the study of what is matter, what is spirit, an analytical study of matter and spirit. So this is there in the Veda. You do all your duties, your material duties that you have to do. You have to live, and so. The Sankhya, and in the Sankhya, there's Sankhya and there's detachment, knowledge and detachment. Sankhya means knowledge. You get knowledge, cultivate spiritual knowledge, and then by that knowledge, you automatically get detached. You understand things very, very nicely. You understand the temporary nature of the world, so therefore you're not going to get really attached to things. I always remember that story of Arjuna. Arjuna was traveling and going to different places, and in one place he saw a sage sitting in meditation, but just out in the open sun, very hot. So he went up to him and he was very respectful, and he said that, you're sitting doing your tapasya and your meditation in the sun. Let me build a little shelter for you, so at least, it's not so hot, you're out of the sun. And so this particular sage, he had a benediction that he could live life in the world for as many hairs as he had on his body. Every hair represented a year. It was a very special case, sage. Every hair represented a year. So how many hairs does anyone have on their body? Well, in my case, because I'm very hairy, I think thousands of hairs. So this sage had a benediction that he could live for thousands of years. So when Arjuna said, "Let me build a shelter," he replied and he said that, "Don't worry about it. I'm only here temporarily." That was his realization. Even though even though he had a benediction, he could live thousands of years, he thought, I'm just here temporarily. Don't worry about it. I'm just here temporarily. So because he had that knowledge, he was just very naturally detached, very naturally. Sometimes people, the forced detachment, and it's forced on you sometimes. Things are ripped away from you. You like your car, all of a sudden, you're standing out the front. And I always remember one devotee, he went to the auction and he bought himself a car. He was very proud of the car and he was showing all the devotees. And then he came back the next day and he told me he parked his car out the front of his house and came out a couple of hours later, the car was gone. Someone had stolen it. I said, well, so much for attachment to things in the world. You're never to be seen again. The car was never to be, he just bought it. And someone stole it the next day. So sometimes forcibly things are ripped away and you have to be detached. You can't be attached because the thing's gone. You can't be attached to it. So sometimes attachment is, you force detachment rather, and sometimes others or situations force detachment on you. But when you develop Sankhya, when you develop transcendental knowledge especially, you're just very naturally detached. It comes naturally. You don't have to force it. You've got something high. You've got something better. Just like if you've got an old clunker, junker of a car or something like that, and you're kind of like had it a long time, maybe you're a little attached to it. But if someone comes around and says, look, I'm going to buy a new car, how about that? Only a fool would say, oh, no, thanks, I'll just keep the clunker. I say, oh, great, and what would they do with the old clunker? Throw it away. Whatever you want to do, just take it out. I want the new one. So very naturally, when you get something better, you give up the inferior product. So therefore, this is the point here. This is the point here in that that part of the Veda is the Vana, the Spadharma, all the injunctions, and as I mentioned, and Prabhupada stresses that it's best if you want to live nicely in the world, relatively peaceful and happy, then follow that, and then you can live a nice life. And then on the other side, there's the spirituality, and that's the Sankhya and all the different instructions given there. And now Prabhupada ends his purport here, and he says that in spite of following the Veda and getting all your necessities, you're living in a regulated mode of goodness life, still, because of cultivation of Sankhya philosophy and Sankhya, there'll be knowledge. And then there'll be detachment, and that's good. You're living a life, but ultimately you're kind of you're not going to get overly attached to it. You know it's temporary, and fulfilling the demands of the body is actually on the level. If you're just concentrating on that and nothing else, then animals do that. Animals. A dog will want search out something to eat and sleep somewhere. And maybe it's not so sophisticated as the human being. But, the dog will just sleep on the ground. The dog will just scrounge around and find something to eat. A dog will mate. And if attacked, the dog will defend itself. So eating, sleeping, mating, defending, these are, not only dogs, all the species of life. So if the humans are just concentrating on that, then Prabhupada says here, it's just really, I'd call it a polished kind of animal life. What distinguishes is the spirituality. When a human being takes up spiritual life, then that is the mission of human life. He's fulfilled the mission of human life. So Prabhupada ends his purport in that way, saying, now he says, that is the mission. And Krishna follows that system of the Vedic instruction and the spirituality. And although he doesn't, he's already the Supreme Personality. He doesn't need to follow. He's not affected by anything. He doesn't need anything, as I said. He doesn't want anything. He's already detached. He is all these things. He doesn't, but he does just to show the example. And this was mentioned, I think, Vasu mentioned that, and others have been talking about that, just to show the example. Otherwise, as Krishna says himself, the world will be put into ruination. They would see I act in a certain way, I don't follow. So someone's going to think, well, Krishna doesn't follow it. Why should I follow it? If Krishna doesn't follow these Vedic injunctions, does whatever he pleases, well, why should I do it? So that's kind of natural in one sense. You see that all the great people aren't doing it, or the great people are doing that. Yeah, I follow that, or I don't follow. So Krishna knows that very well. And Krishna, as I said, Krishna, the world will be put into ruination. People will take it further. That's the point. Prabhupada explains that in that purport of that verse. People will take it further. Oh, Krishna's not following, and then people will, oh, they're not following, and then they start doing other things as well. They'll take it further and further to the point of very extreme not following, very extreme, very, very sinful and violent, and all sorts of activities. Krishna may have, even if Krishna didn't follow, maybe he didn't follow very on a very not a very extreme, just a very casual level. But someone may take it further. So the Krishna goes so far as to say the world will be put into ruination because people will take it further than even what I did or what I didn't do. People, because of the mode of passion pushing us, people will take it further, and therefore I act and follow just to set the example. And I follow by my example, by my instructions, and therefore Krishna takes this very seriously. So this is, in essence, what is the lesson to be learned from this verse today. I'd like to mention before I finish, also today is the official day of Diwali or Deepavali. And according to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and he quotes from Sanat Goswami in Vaishnava Toshani, he says that today is actually the day, just like for the whole month, the month of Damodar, we're offering lamps. But today is actually the anniversary of the day where Krishna broke the pot of yogurt, and because he was naughty, Mother Jasoda bound him up. So Diwali today is the day, the anniversary of that day. So today is the day. It's called Diwali. Of course, Diwali in India and other parts of the world, it's celebrated a little bit differently. Even in India, in South India and in Bengal and in Gujarat and North India, it's celebrated a little bit differently, one place to the other. Some celebrate 5 days of festivals. And just like today is, we say is the day of the anniversary of Krishna's breaking the pot of yogurt. Also, today is more in the northern India. It's Lakshmi Puja. This is and they offer lamps to Lakshmi. It is said that Lakshmi Devi appeared out of the ocean of milk today when they were churning the Lakshmi Devi appeared today on this day. So they want to get Lakshmi Devi's blessings. So many people worship Lakshmi Devi today. Over there in Bengal, it'll be more Durga Puja or Kali Puja. They worship Durga Devi over in Bengal, and so that's today. And the previous days, it generally starts off with, or in other places, of course, more in North India, is also today is celebrated as when Lord Ram, after defeating Ravana, he came back to Ayodhya, and to receive him and welcome him, the residents of Ayodhya lit up all the streets with lamps to welcome him back. And so this also signifies the lighting of the lamp. So this is another celebration on today. Previously, the first day, sometimes, as I said, according to the different regions, the first day is the appearance of Dhanvantari. He rose with the pot of elixir of immortality from the ocean of milk. So that's celebrated in many parts of India, the Dhanvantari. And the next day is when Krishna and Satyabhama went, and Narakasura, he was defeated by Krishna. I spoke a little bit about Bhaumasura, Narakasura, I think a class of a couple of weeks ago. And then today, and then tomorrow will be Go Puja, Govardhana Puja. That's another day of Diwali. And a lot of areas they celebrate the last day is what they have right now. Bhatri Puja, where brothers go and see their sisters and ask about their well-being, ask if they need anything. So this is based on a story from a long time ago when Yamaraj went to visit Jamuna, his sister, and asked her if she needed anything, and he offered a benediction. Anyone who remembers you on this day, will have unlimited blessings and so on and so forth. So, somehow or other it's come to all brothers visiting their sisters. Well, the day is actually Yamaraj visiting Jamuna, and if one remembers that, then you get those benedictions. So that's the last day of Diwali. So generally, it's a very festive time of the year, and especially in India. You see sometimes they light off, especially in Mumbai, you see a lot of firecrackers going off, like lamps and firecrackers and all sorts of things going, fireworks and so on and so forth. You'll see all that going off today. So I thought I'd mention that because today is the anniversary of that. So we've perhaps got question time, maybe for one question. If anyone has a question, yes, Rupa Raman. Yeah. Is it working? He's outside. Maybe you can just shout out.
Right, you were quoting that Krishna said about that, do not follow all these rules and regulations. The whole all the worlds will be put to ruination. So people pose the question, what seems like quite often Krishna doesn't follow anyway, like he dances with others' wives in the middle of the night, steals.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, occasionally he has to show his position. Otherwise, if he's just too ordinary, then no one will take it serious. Oh, he's just like the rest of us. People will get confused. But then every now and again, besides the rasa dance and all that with the gopis and all that, there's a lot of asuras lifting up Govardhan Hill. You forgot to mention all those ones. And so therefore he portrays himself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not following the rules and regulations. So Prabhupada actually comments, he says that, well, someone could cite that. Well, you say Krishna follows, but then what about this? But wait a minute, can you lift up Govardhan Hill? So don't imitate, but follow what generally Krishna follows all these rules and regulations very exactly. But every now and again, to show his position, he manifests his pastime, and of course to engage in loving affairs with his devotees. He sometimes transgresses the rules occasionally, but generally he follows. All right, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol.